Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Master Wing channel. We are focused on our favorite game, Wingspan, the card drawing, engine building bird game. Thank you to the 250 something subscribers up until this point. I really appreciate your support. It does mean a lot. We are hopping right into a game versus Knack. I have Behaviorist or Enclosure Builder. I think we go with Enclosure Builder because Behaviorist, even though we have those yellow powers and more colorful boards, I think Enclosure Builder still is easier to get. The Pukeko, I have yet to play in Oceania, but it's becoming a favorite bird of mine. And then we kind of have a typical European base game opening with the Bee Eater and the Purple Martin. I'm contemplating the California quail. There's 2 nectar in the bird feeder, and of course the Eastern Imperial Eagle was in the tray. We go second this time, and I'm debating whether I want to try this quail, but I think I'm going to focus and go all in with this Bee Eater and the grassland. So maybe the California quail might be a waste of resources. Normally I like that bird in Oceania because I can lay eggs in the forest. And then I think there's also a missed opportunity here, possibly for the rufous-banded Honeyeater. I could use the European Bee Eater and then stick the Honeyeater in the wetlands, and that'd be a cool trade-off to trade those worms out for nectar. But because I have a Pukeko, I think that takes priority. I think if the Pukeko wasn't there, I would have had the Honeyeater. But I mean, it's a bird that lays eggs in the wetlands. So, why not lay eggs while we're drawing cards? So that's the direction I'm thinking about going here. We only have an Oceania end of round goal in round 4. And I keep the California quail because I'm assuming my opponent is going to grab the Imperial Eagle. And I'm going to get a jump start on nectar and just grab 2 while they're there. I'm not going to have, or at least I'm thinking I'm not going to have a lot of focus on the nectar battle because the European Bee Eater obviously is just going to be getting me worms. So we are going to tuck and draw with the Purple Martin and see what we get. As expected, my opponent snags Imperial Eagle and was it the Grebe? I felt like he drew 2 there. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I think it was the Grebe. Anyway, we are going to go with our plan. We've got 3 nectar and going with the fast grass approach where we will at least play 2 birds in the grassland, which will help me out with this first end of round goal. And then I'm hoping I can draw something nice with the Pukeko and maybe add something to this grassland engine that we are going for. Don't know if I've played Knack before, but that Grebe should be good for them. Of course, 5-point base game bird. I really like that. And we will also be looking out for those ground nests because all I have right now is 1. Hope everybody's having a good new year and enjoying the Oceania content. It hasn't even been out for a month, but we are loving it. I'll probably beat this topic to death, just talking about it over and over again, but it's the new normal, and eventually we'll get used to it, but I like how the games are so mixed and varied. I felt like with the base game, just looking back on the last year or 2, it just seemed like the majority of games were funneled towards a grassland engine, and that was successful, and you usually won doing so. But here we are, and with this Oceania expansion, it just opens up the options, and the grassland is not dead by any means, at least in my opinion. But in the base game, you rarely saw forest engines, unless you had like a wood duck or pileated woodpecker, and then you'd throw in a few full tucks, maybe like 10-20% of the time. But a lot of times it would go just straight into the grassland, and I think Oceania, like I said, opens up the variety of the game. I think birds like the northern bobwhite, which is in the tray, the cass and sparrow, some of those egg layers become a little bit more important and a little bit more noticeable. So I don't know if I'm going to go for it right now, but since we do have the 2 nectar, I think we'll get the Pukeko down and draw cards. The Belted Kingfisher is tempting me just because it's a star nest, and maybe I could grab, 1 or 2 extra fish throughout this game. We'll see if we draw that. This is a post-commentary game, and I did speed up some of the footage here just because that's how Oceania is. So there are some longer turns, and this game in particular is one of the most buggy games I've had. I think we close out of this game like 6 times, so apologies in advance there. And my opponent plays Anna's Hummingbird, and that is exactly what we would like to see, especially with just a one-dimensional bird like the Bee Eater. We will take the extra food where we can. Unfortunately, I grab a worm because that's the bird that I can play next is the Purple Martin. So I'd like to grab something else from the bird feeder typically, but now I can go straight into the Purple Martin and not have to lay eggs again. So we pick up the Common Loon and a bonus card Woodpecker. Common Loon, of course, has that ground nest, but I think I'm going to be a little bit more selective for, what birds I play in that wetlands. It's still early game, and, if I'm going to be playing 2 or 3 wetland birds, that Common Loon Brown Power really isn't going to help me much. Of course, the Woodpecker is a bonus card bird, but again, when you only have 2 birds on the board right now, I'm not super thrilled about my card draw. I will probably play the Martin and tuck the Common Loon and see what we get. Obviously, we did pass on that Belted Kingfisher, and I think in hindsight, I wish I would have grabbed that. I wish I would have grabbed that Belted Kingfisher because it might help me with the third end around and again, obtain some extra food. It's interesting that both players here were both grassland and wetlands oriented. Neither one of us has played a forest bird, which in Oceania seems a little weird. But with the extra cards, you can always snag 2 food right now, and you don't have to get that 1 bird in the forest, which is nice. And that's another thing with this layout and with this game that I'm trying to get used to, that extra cards. In the base game, sometimes you felt like, man, I drew cards too many times, but I'm feeling in Oceania, you can almost never draw too many cards, because if you really think about it, all cards are points now. They're potential points that can be discarded for eggs. So you really got to be choosy, or selective on how you dispense those extra cards if you're going to use it for food, eggs, or tucking. It's definitely a lot to think about. And I'm not sure if, at this point, if my opponent is thinking or if I have some lag, so I'm going to fast forward here just a second. My opponent did pick up that Belted Kingfisher we were talking about, so I guess they thought the same thing. That was pretty good. And I pick up the Black Tern just to reveal the Franklin's Gull. If I had only drawn from the top of the deck, I probably would have grabbed that card. My opponent only has 1 turn left, and so I'm interested to see if they pick up the Franklin's Gull, which I think would be the move, or if they play a second bird to pressure or tie that end of round goal. So kind of a tough decision here for them, but I think you grab Franklin's Gull here. We picked up the Black Tern just because it's playable. Obviously, with that worm cost in the Black Tern, maybe we throw it down and get to see some more cards. And if I don't get the Franklin's Gull, that might be, just another card that can help us win this game. Let's see what my opponent does here. Oh, wow, that's right. They did leave the Franklin's Gull. They tied the end of round with the red-backed fairy wren. That's very interesting. I don't know. Maybe they, There's some thoughts on this Franklin's Gull as far as if it's as strong with Oceania, because you're already light on eggs and then you're discarding an egg, so maybe they didn't think the Franklin's Gull was necessary. But they did tie that end around goal, so we'll see how that pans out. That really helps me, and now my Pukeko is as excited as I was. I think I'm going to pivot even more so and focus on this grassland. That fairy wren lets you lay eggs on all star nests. So obviously they have the grebe, and then they picked up that kingfisher. I've yet to play that red-backed fairy wren. But that'll be interesting to see how many star nests they grab. I felt like that's one of the harder yellow powers, but maybe not. And it looks like we go ahead and discard a card to grab 2 nectar in the tray while they're available. And now maybe I can get this Franklin's Gold down a little easier than spamming the bee eater. And the Brewer's Blackbird is also a bird I would normally look at with Franklin's Gull. I did kind of risk it there. My opponent didn't deny it. And instead I elect to, again, kind of progress my board here and not worry about the Blackbird. Maybe in hindsight I should pick that up, but there's so many tuck and lay or tuck and draw birds, so many grassland predators that are now scoring 1 or 2 consistent points. Maybe with a purple martin the Brewer's Blackbird doesn't go well, because I want those extra cards to tuck and draw, not necessarily to lay more eggs. I'm going to be laying eggs a ton in this game, so I actually might run out of egg space in Oceania. And check out what we top deck, the violet green swallow. Love to see it. It's not that ground nest bird we're looking for, but it is another tuck and draw. And the South Island robin. Probably not looking for the South Island robin. It lets you cache a worm if a previous player has a worm in their supply. And I'm assuming we pass on this Blackbird again. We only have 2 slots left in the grassland, and I think one of those will definitely be occupied by the violet green swallow. It's still somewhat early game. I don't think it's too late for it. And I'll just collect those points in this grassland. My problem really is food, so I'd really like to see like a nightingale or a Honeyeater. I think there's a grassland Honeyeater that lets you grab a nectar in the bird feeder if it's available. I'm trying to think, of course, the blue throat or something like that, but with this bee eater, I just don't want to completely neglect the nectar battle and score 0 points in the forest and maybe not enough in the wetlands. In a 2-player game, that 6-point differential can be, I don't know, it can hurt you. So we are still going with the fast grass approach. It hasn't been that fast. I feel like I've played a grassland a little faster than this. But the Franklin's Gull, of course, is going to help. I'm hoping it doesn't hurt me as much as some of these Oceania games. I have played the Franklin's Gull and Killdeer and lost substantially with these forest engines. So I don't know. We'll see if it works out here. I'm liking our setup. My opponent has a couple brown powers, but they don't. I don't know. We're approaching mid-game, and it doesn't look like they have a great way to get food without giving me food. Of course, with that hummingbird. But then they also don't have a brown power scorer like we do. And check it out. They drew birds. And I was looking at their board. I wasn't paying attention to the tray. But that Honeyeater, the New Holland Honeyeater, that's the bird I was talking about. It lets you grab one if available. So we are going to snag that. I know it's a 0-point bird, and it occupies that important 5th slot. in the grassland, but I think that's just going to give me just a little bit more edge to my game here, since we were good on eggs, we were good on card draw, but we weren't great on food. I also pick up Little Penguin, which is a star nest, and another bonus card bird with the king rail. We've got the wood stork in the back. So those are potential plays for me. I'm kind of happy with the card draw right now. My opponent plays something interesting in the forest, Black Vulture. I don't have any predators, but it is a free bird for them, obviously, in the forest. So maybe they just wanted to throw something down so that they could draw 2 food. And what are we doing here? Are we laying eggs? No, we're gaining food. Okay. We're gaining food for the Honeyeater. That's right. So a 0-point bird in the 5th slot, that is weird. I think if I had my choice, I would play the Honeyeater before the Bee-Eater, because the Bee-Eater would reset the tray and I grab a worm, and then the Honeyeater could collect the nectar left over. So in an ideal scenario, I'd probably have the Honeyeater before the Bee-Eater, but we're not going to complain. I think with the resets, I still should be able to grab some nectar, and maybe this bird is the MVP. I don't know. So I've got 3 birds I'm looking at playing. I think if we continue to lay eggs, I may have to skip the violet-green swallow once, because I might play the penguin. I'm not sure. That personal supply goal, we did not have the setup. My opponent could have gained food twice that last turn and beat me anyway, so I really wasn't super concerned about competing for that end of round goal. We kind of just gave it up. So anyway, here we are, 3rd end of round. We only have 11 turns left. My opponent is going first this round. And the brown-headed cowbird in the tray, I'm thinking that's probably a must-grab for them. Seeing as my focus is on the grassland, they could probably snag a few extra eggs that way. I don't think it's too late for the cowbird. I think the 5-point cowbird would be better. And maybe they're tired of drawing cards. It looks like they have a ton of cards in their hand. So they may have other plans, but the pink powers with this grassland would definitely be a good counter. We will see. That white-bellied sea eagle, some might think I should deny that, but I'm not. It doesn't really fit with my plans, so I'm kind of just letting it ride and playing a little risky. And we are not complaining about the hummingbird food. We take the free food, but the brown-headed cowbird was left. So we are definitely going to deny that bird, because that would be taking a point off our engine every time. Maybe my opponent thought it was too late, but for us, pink powers can really kill our tempo. And I think in hindsight, my opponent, I will not tell you the end of this score. It is a good game. I won't say who comes back or doesn't come back, but I think my opponent does mention they wish they had taken the cowbird to add to their score. We didn't get anything nice. We got a barn swallow, but, not really what we're looking for. A 1-point bird with a star nest. I've got 2 bonus card birds, a penguin. Question is, are we going to get enough food to play all those birds? We are trying to compete for this 3rd end of round, and all I have is 2 eggs in the platform nest. And one good thing about that king rail, it is expensive and it's only 4 points, but it has a lot of platform nest space. I am kind of running out of time to do this enclosure builder, and I'm not sure how many more times I'm going to activate this Franklin's Gull, because you reach that point with the Franklin's Gull when you're approaching round 4. Unless you see something just phenomenal in the tray, or you don't have the right birds to play, you're not usually activating the Franklin's Gull in your final 4 or 5 turns. And I was talking about how these extra cards can turn into points, but I guess that's something to learn and to adjust with, because if you max out your grassland like we have, obviously you can't discard an extra card for an egg. So the extra cards in our hand, in our case, are not extra points. So we'll probably only activate the goal a few more times here unless we see something amazing. Some fun news while we wait to play. Stonemeyer announced a new game called WINGSPAN, or WINGSPAN. I don't know how you pronounce it, but I did see the trailer and it looks kind of like it's a dragon game based off of Wingspan mechanics. So that'll be interesting. I think, honestly, guys, we are so invested and love this current game. I don't know if we're going to pick it up or not. I think I'd like to see more. You know, from a collector standpoint, it could probably break the bank again if that goes heavy. Of course, who doesn't like dragons? But the expansion so far, we're so pleased and happy with the Wingspan content that I don't know if it's a pickup, an automatic pickup. I think I want to see some more gameplay. So here we are with the King Rail. We'd really like it. Hey, check it out. A nice bonus card I was just about to say. And Food Web Expert, we definitely take that with a Bee Eater, a Green Swallow, and a Martin. That actually beats the Ecologist bonus card in this case. So that turned into a 9-point play. And with the extra platform nest, I'm hoping we can win this end-of-round goal. As for the Wingspan content, like I mentioned, I'm kind of surprised that they're not pumping out more Wingspan content faster. You compare to some of these other games, and they're coming out with new expansions or new cards like every other month, it seems, or every quarter. And maybe Elizabeth's just a one-man team or something. Stonemeyer, I'm not sure if they're a huge company. But I'd be milking this Wingspan content. You have the crowd. You have a great product. And I understand on the digital side how long it takes to fix these mechanics and release Oceania. But I don't know. There's so many promo packs that you could do in between these expansions of birds you might have missed. And I mean, you get an artist and you have a power, and you pump out some cards. I'm a little disappointed on that end just because we're a super fan and we like your product. Does it really take a year or 2 years to get something new? Because that's just how it is. I mean, eventually everything gets old, and when you play it a lot, you'd like some new content. That's just my 2 cents. A little bit of a tangent there, but let me know what you think in the comments. I just a little frustrated why it takes a year or two to get something. We may have a misplay there. The bush tit, I think I throw it down thinking I could get more platform nest space. I also, participated in the nectar battle, so maybe it's a 4-point play if I get second in the forest. So the bush tit wasn't the best play there, but I could have played the wood stork, I think, and still laid the same amount of platform nest eggs. So probably should have played wood stork, but again, we tried to compete with the nectar in the forest, and that star nest kind of overshadowed my decision making. And here's the bugs I'm talking about. Usually this game isn't buggy for me, so I had to exit out a couple times here, so be patient with me. Of course, Elizabeth Hargrave, we love her game, so please don't take that feedback to heart too much. I know she's working on that mushroom game, or it's on Kickstarter, the Undergrove, I think it's called, maybe. And then the Fox Experiment, I don't know the timeline, so they're probably working on so many different games, but if you're working on so many games, I'm just thinking, if this is the best board game in the world at one point, and it got so many awards, why aren't you going with your cash cow and pumping out more content? It looks like the red knot was a saving grace in the tray. Check it out. Normally the red knot isn't that clutch. Of course, we reveal Baltimore Oriole. I'd like to have the Oriole as well. But the red knot, going back to the game here, it's a ground nest. That'll give me, on the low side, the bonus card for Enclosure Builder. You know, we'll get those 4 points. Then it's a Food Web Expert card. And then we may get a bonus on top of that. So with 4 turns left, I'm thinking we play... Well, there is nectar in the tray. Don't think the little penguin's going to get played. Too expensive. I think we lay eggs and then wood stork and red knot. And that's probably GG. I think we have enough egg space to lay eggs twice for a 6-point engine, and I could collect, you know, a couple more nectar hypothetically, and maybe challenge this wetland nectar battle. Here we go, another bug. I'm sorry. My opponent has 5 nectar, I think, in the wetlands. Oh, we take a free card. That's fine. That's weird. Like, it was my turn, and then it would exit out of the game. And the nectar's still available, so check out this Honeyeater doing work. We could not play these birds without this nectar, and we're scoring points while gaining food. It's one of the most basic principles of Wingspan, to score points while gaining food. I mean, that's just sick. The New Holland Honeyeater may be a new favorite. We'll see. And then the Bee-Eater resets it so the Honeyeater can grab some more. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool little combo there. What do y'all think is going to be the next expansion? I think it's Africa. I could be completely wrong. I don't have any insider information. I saw an interview from with Elizabeth Hargrave, and of course with South America or that Latin America region, Africa and Antarctica, you know, she mentioned in the interview like almost Antarctica as a almost as like a cliff note, like, yeah, I'll have to think about something for Antarctica because most of those birds are wetland birds. So I don't think she would have mentioned Antarctica and the issue or problem that Antarctica could cause if that was the next expansion. So I think we're between Africa and Latin or South America. And I don't know. I think when I think of South America, I mean, I just think of Amazon rainforest, a ton of birds. And I almost feel like that's more of a finale than... Like, do you go from Asia, like more, like I think of rainforest habitats, you know, dense woods in Asia, and then you go to another rainforest type environment with South America? I don't know. That's just my thinking. Maybe it's easier to travel to South America. I know she does a ton of research, but let me know what you think the next expansion is going to be. I mean, it's basically a 50-50 shot. I think she switches it up and goes to Africa. You know, I'm thinking Sahara Desert. I mean, you have to have the ostrich. You see those zoo birds, right? I mean, the marabou stork, the African crowned crane. I think it might be the shoebill. So many good choices in Africa, and of course there's rainforest there too. Madagascar, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana. But Africa, I would love to see an Africa expansion, so I'm guessing that's the next one. Let me know what you think. Of course, my opponent plays that Eastern Imperial Eagle with 2 turns left in the game. Doing our final calculations here, we knew that bird was going to be played eventually. And it looks like a bug is coming up again. Let me fast forward. I'm sorry. All right, we're back. Apologies again. Thank you for sticking with me if you've watched this far. Stay tuned for the final score. And if you have not subscribed to this channel and if you enjoyed watching, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and hit a like so this video can get more views for me. Here we go with the wood stork, and we take visionary leader. It's not bad, but 4 points will do. I don't think I'm going to be able to max out that visionary leader because we do want that big red knot energy for the last turn of the game. It looks like my opponent has played a lot of, I don't know, they had the welcome swallow, which is interesting. That's that white power. They've played Imperial Eagle. They've had a black vulture. Of course, they had that fairy wren. I think I'm going to take a look at their board in just a second. But it looks like this game, I don't know, unless they have something crazy in the last 2 turns, I'm feeling pretty confident about this win. There we go, Fishery Manager with Red Knot. Oh, that blue-winged warbler would have been good earlier. But that Red Knot turned into a 5, 7, 11-point play, maybe, with the bonus cards included. So that was a nice bomb. They did get that Baltimore Oriole, and maybe they have more bird points. And of course, the yellow powers are going to kick in here in a second. Just looked like they didn't have that brown power to really repeat. And maybe it wasn't a brown power type of game. They play the Goshawk at the end. They probably have more bird points than us. And we were able to snag the wetland nectar battle with the Honeyeater. So here's the scores here. Check it out, 53 bird points. So well done by Knack. And they're still ahead. Here's where we're pulling ahead with the eggs and the tucks. Check it out. 120, 103, decent game. I think they had some tough time drawing cards. Maybe they pick up the cowbird or deny the Franklin's Gull. We were going to go heavy with the Pukeko, but we transitioned to the Gull, and they had Grassland Data Analyst, which they maxed out for 8 points. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have fun playing more Wingspan. Peace.